And our first story tonight will no doubt inspire you. Jason Becker has been doing just that since he was a little kid. And even though Jason can't speak and he can't move, anyone who knows him says his career has just begun. 10 years ago, Jason Becker was hailed as one of the best rock guitarists in the world. But today, his music is locked inside his mind, trapped in a body that once entertained the world.
Jason wrote so much stuff over the years that even if he never wrote again for years, he has enough for a few more CDs. But it's pretty cool to still have his music out there kicking.
When he was 5, Jason's father, Gary, gave him his first guitar, and he never put it down. At 13, he could play note for note with the best.
I gave him the opportunity, but he had that himself inside. You can't get that. You can't buy it. You either have it and want it and stuff. So he had examples, but the fire was within.
By his late teens, he had already released several albums, and at 20, he landed the biggest gig of all, lead guitarist for the popular David Lee Roth band. But just a week later, it all came crashing down.
That was hell because of what I thought he was going to lose. And it seemed just very unfair and cruel. It just ripped our hearts out.
Jason was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, a paralyzing neurological disorder.
But I'm sure any parent might be able to look at their child and try to visualize it. Yeah, I think that's the worst thing that can happen to a parent, is something happening to their child.
Even though his fingers were slowing down, he finished an album that later went gold. Doctors gave him only 3 years to live. A decade later, Jason is still going strong.
I've read his fan mail over the years, and he's an inspiration to a lot of people, including a lot of people that have said, you know, gee, I felt like committing suicide, but when I read about you, I'm going back and living my life.
Jason requires around-the-clock care from his loving family and friends. He communicates with his eyes.
It's basically a grid system that just puts the letters of the alphabet in a certain place in space that we have memorized. So each letter has 2 eye movements that Jason gives me, and I call off the letters, and then the words when I understand what I think he's saying.
Learning the system was easy. Jason says accepting it was the hard part.
Do S-T-O, stop. Stop you using voice. Yeah, it was very easy for him once he stopped fighting it because he didn't want to stop using his voice.
With the help of a computer and those passionate eyes, Jason is composing once again. He's already composed a music video, and Raspberry Jams, a CD full of his old music, was just released. His music struck a chord with the acclaimed Diablo Ballet, and tonight they're performing one of his songs. Lauren Jonas, the company's artistic director, is a big fan.
He is an extraordinary human being, and he's always inspired me, even when I knew him before he really got sick. Just his music was it's just phenomenal, and what he's done with his life and how he proceeds and his positive demeanor and the beauty and the artistry that is inside of him and that we all get to share is just extraordinary.
Jason's mind is still filled with music, and it's up to those passionate eyes to share it with the world. Jason's new CD, Raspberry Jams, is in music stores all around the country. It's totally inspiring music, and you'll hear so many different styles of music, not to mention a ton of Jason's spirit.
But it's been 3 years since we first told you about Jason Becker.
Jason is a gifted musician who must struggle just to stay alive. For years after doctors had given up on him, Jason, who is now 30 years old, is doing much more than simply living.
You know, in fact, in many ways, despite the obstacles, he is thriving. Let's bring you up to date.
Becker is a man at peace. Yes, disease has ravaged his body, but his mind is sharp and full of music he wants the world to hear. This remarkable man can no longer move or even speak, but he can still touch those around him with his eyes. Jason's story begins when he was 17 years old and cut his first record deal. In a matter of months, Jason became one of the most critically acclaimed rock guitarists in the world. This home video shows his trademark, playing guitar with one hand, yo-yoing with the other.
He was able to do things technically that no one's ever been able to do. Every great guitar player that's seen Jason just, you know, he's awe-inspiring.
In 1990, Jason was lead guitarist for David Lee Roth and helped write his gold record, A Little Ain't Enough. That same year, though, when Jason was just 19, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It is a neuromuscular condition that would slowly take away Jason's ability to control his body.
The first couple of years was just, you know, it was just unbelievable. Hell, he couldn't even hardly function, but he had to, because Jason was, he didn't care. He was busy with his career.
When Jason could no longer play guitar, he began composing on a keyboard, first with two hands, then with only one. And when his hands no longer moved, Jason turned to a computer. His friend and music producer Mike Beamisturfer adapted a program so that Jason could compose, one note at a time. Jason wore a visor with a sensor on top. When he moved his head, the sensor moved the cursor on the screen. When Jason opened his mouth, his chin clicked the mouse.
I don't know of anyone else that can do it in the way that he does it. This ability to visualize, hear an entire piece, an entire record in his head, break it into its component parts, and then play them one note, one part at a time into the computer.
After 5 years of painstaking work, Jason hired musicians to play his music and finished a CD and music video called Perspectives. But Jason's health was getting worse. Soon after we visited him in 1996, Jason says his doctor expected him to die. But Jason wasn't ready. Doctors inserted a tube in his throat to help him breathe, and after months of tender care from his family and friends, he actually began to feel better. But Jason could no longer speak.
Hey, I was totally afraid to not be able to communicate with him. There's so many things he needs, if nothing else, to alleviate pain he might have.
Jason's father devised a communication system using an alphabet board and simple eye movements. Now, Jason can spell out his thoughts with his eyes. His friend, Serena Casamali, is our interpreter.
You hear new music in your head still?
S-O, so, M, so much, I-T, it, D-R, drives me nuts.
Jason now lives in a home next door to his parents in Richmond. The teachings of an Indian guru have helped him find inner happiness.
So, Jason, despite some of the physical challenges, you're telling me you're relatively content?
D, E, definitely. Don't. G, E, get. Don't get me wrong. A, L, A-L-S, S, U, sucks.
Incredibly, Jason's career is still moving forward. Warner Brothers will soon release his CD, and tomorrow, the Diablo Ballet will perform to his music at the Concord Pavilion. The dance was choreographed by Nikolai Kabaniev.
It's a full orchestrated piece with an electric guitar solo. And what he's done is he's taken a male dancer to represent the electric guitar portions. And you can just see with the dance, the music.
As his career was going so well, you must have been very proud of him. But I imagine you're as proud, if not more proud now, at the way he's handled this adversity.
Oh, he's unbelievable. I mean, he's the ultimate optimist. He just, nothing stops him.
He's an amazing guy.
and a privilege to be with him, I can tell you. Jason Becker's music has been chosen to kick off a year-long celebration of the arts in Contra Costa County. It starts with that performance by the Diablo Ballet at the Concord Pavilion, as we told you, tomorrow night. The show is at 8 and will be followed by fireworks, and it is free, except for the $7 fee for parking. Well worth it if you'd like to go.
What an amazing individual,
He really
and
is.
absolutely an optimist.
He really is, and you can see, as you talk to him, the joy on his face,
Right.
even, and that he expresses with his eyes.
But he
He's
is
got
still
trouble.
so lively.
He is very lively. He still has trouble, but he is very optimistic.
Great story, Dan. Thanks.
Fuck it, man. Too hard. Don't even try to play it. Arrangement by Jason Becker. Just played a real nice guitar solo for you. Sean Patrick on bass. Owen Gooden on drums.